Hi, welcome to lesson 24, session 3. Today we'll be dividing by a whole number by a unit fraction using working with word problems. So we've been doing this for almost about a week now, and yesterday we went over dividing a unit fraction by a whole number, and so now we're going to do the opposite. But we did all of this last week. The only part that's going to really change is now we're really looking at it in using word problems. So we're going to be working today in Ready Classroom Math Workbook on pages 481 through pages 486. So go ahead and take out your Ready Classroom Math Workbook and turn to page 481. All right, so on page 481, we see this problem. It says this: Alex makes 2 pounds of bread dough. He splits the dough into 1/4 of a pound loaves before baking them in the oven. How many loaves does he make? So first of all, we're talking about bread dough to make loaves of bread. And the problem we're trying to solve is how many loaves of bread does Alex make? And then the important information, if this will focus, the important information is that he has 2 pounds of bread dough, and each loaf of bread is going to be 1/4 of a pound. So as you know, I love to draw pictures. So this math word problem really lends itself well in my brain to draw a picture. So if we have 2 big balls of dough, like this is dough here that's underneath this rolling pin, this is the dough. And so if I had 2 big balls of dough, here, this is 1 pound of dough, and this is another pound of dough. So together we have 2 pounds of dough. And then we're going to split the dough into 1/4 pound loaves. Now remember, we're going to look at that denominator to decide how many parts we're going to break this whole into. So we're going to break this whole into 4 equal parts. So each of these pounds of dough, we're going to break into 4 equal parts because we're breaking it into parts that are 1/4 of a pound. So one of these parts is 1/4 of a pound. Then, to find out the answer of how many loaves he makes, we need to just simply count the number of pounds the number of 1/4 pound of dough that we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he has 8 loaves of bread that he can make. So he can make a total of 8 loaves of bread. So this would be using a picture model to solve. Now, you could also have done this as an equation. We're going to look at the picture and we're going to say, how much total dough do we have? And we're going to divide it by the amount in 1 loaf, and that's going to equal the total number of loaves that we can make. So what is the total amount of dough? We have a total of 2 pounds of dough, and then we're going to divide that by the amount in 1 loaf. How much of a pound is 1 loaf? It is 1/4 of a pound is 1 loaf. So 2/4 divided by 1/4 equals 8. Because we know that 2/4 divided by 1/4 is the same as 2 loaves of bread times 4, because there's 4 loaves in 1 pound, which equals 8. So remember, we can write a division equation or a multiplication equation once we know the information that we have. All right, let's go ahead and look at page 482. Now on 482, they did this same problem, but they used a number line instead of using instead of drawing a model like we did. And don't worry, it works the same. So we drew a number line and we labeled it to show 2 pounds of bread. So we have 1 pound of bread, 2 pounds of bread. Then we marked the number line to divide each whole. So remember, a whole is from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 2. Each of those are wholes, and we're going to divide it into fourths. So if we divide one whole into fourths, that means we need to draw 3 lines to create 4 sections. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections in one loaf, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 sections in 2 loaves, which means 8 loaves altogether. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loaves of bread. Now, down below, we also could use an equation. Here it says the equation 2 divided by 1/4 equals n models the problem with n being the number of loaves Alex makes. Write the numbers in the equation with a common denominator. So what they've done here is they've decided to say, okay, I know that 2 wholes is the same as 4 fourths plus 4 fourths, because we could break this 2 up into 4 fourths plus 4 fourths, which equals 8 fourths. Now, if you have common denominators, if you have 8 fourths divided by 1/4, we want to know how many groups of 1/4 are in 8 fourths. Well, you've got it. There are 8 1/4 sections in 8 fourths. So we can divide 8 fourths into equal groups of 1/4, which would be 8. There would be 8 groups. So if we had 8 fourths, we could break that up into 1/4 plus 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 1/4. So we could make 8, since we know the 8 is how many equal parts we have, and the fourth is how many is in one part. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if we divided 8 fourths into 1/4 sections, how many do we have? We have 8 equal parts of 1/4. All right, so let's go ahead and now look over at the next page, which is kind of going to go into this page in a little bit more detail. So it says here, in the first model at number line, how are the 2 pounds of bread dough represented? Well, I kind of already covered that, but the pounds of dough are labeled 1 and 2 on the number line. Now I'm going to keep going. If I'm going a little too fast for you, you can always pause the video, write it all down, and then start the video back up if I'm moving a little too quickly for you. Now, number 2 says this: how are the 1/4 pound loaves represented on the number line? So when we look at this number line, how are the 1/4 pounds represented on this number line? Each whole number, or pound, is divided into fourths using tick marks. So these right here are called tick marks. And these tick marks are dividing each of the holes into 4 equal parts. Number 3 then says, how many fourths are in one whole? So if we're just looking at one whole, how many fourths are in one whole? Well, it's a good thing we wrote those numbers earlier on. That's right, there are 4 fourths in one whole. So if there's 4 fourths in one whole, how many holes are there in 2 holes? And how many fourths are there in 2 wholes? Well, we know that there are 8. So now if we look at the second modelet, how is the equation 2 and 1/4, we're going to look at how it changed to an equation involving a fraction, involving fractions with common denominators. Now, I already went and showed you how we could make this 2 wholes into 8/4 by changing each of those wholes into 4/4. The reason, I never said, but the reason that I chose to turn them into 4/4 is because the denominator here was already 4. So I just decided to keep it the same, which is really what you need to do in order to make it easy to do this math problem down here. So what I said was the number is changed to 8/4 because we have 4/4 and 4/4, which equals 8/4. Because this is 1 whole plus 1 whole, which equals 2. 2 is equal to 8/4. We don't very often write it as 8/4. Usually we always would just write it as 2. So I think it's kind of fun to think of it that way. But you know, I'm kind of a dork like that and think that things in math are really fun. All right, let's go to number 5. So now, how many groups of 1/4 are in 8/4? What is 8/4 divided by 1/4? Now, I already did that work over here and talked about it. So I'm just going to show you what I wrote here. It says, we know that there are 8. There are 8 equal groups of 1/4 and 8/4. And so here's how I showed you how I broke this 8/4 up into 8 groups of 1/4, or 8 equal parts of 1/4. That's how we know that there are 8. So equal parts is kind of the same as groups. Number 6 then says, how many loaves does Alex make? How are the first modelet and second modelet alike in showing how to find the solution? So, I thought I had, I didn't realize I had so much left there. So we know that there are 8 loaves. We've talked about that on the last few questions. The first modelet up here, shows 8 1/4 tick marks in 2 loaves of bread, or 8 equal parts in 2 loaves of bread. The second down below shows 8 1/4. So it shows us that there are 8 1/4 in 8/4 using an equation. So we changed 2 and 1/4 to 8/4 divided by 1/4, and then we could easily see that there are 8 1/4 groups in 8/4. Now, as we've shown you quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, we can often use a multiplication problem along with a division problem. So we just need to rearrange it a bit. So we're going to write in a multiplication equation to check our answer for what is 2 divided by 1/4. So I'll go ahead and move that. 2 divided by 1/4, we know it equals 8. So remember, this is the whole, this is a part, and this is a part. Whenever you're multiplying, you multiply a part times a part to get to the whole number. So we know that a part, which is 8, multiplied by the other part, 1/4, gives us 8/4, which is equal to 2, which is equal to the whole. So to check your answer, you always need to make sure that this would be the divisor. So this is our dividend, this is our divisor, and this is our quotient. The divisor and the quotient, when multiplied, should always equal the dividend, or the number being divided. Finally, we're looking at number 8. Number 8 says, look back at your triad strategies by classmates and model it. Which models or strategies do you like best for dividing a whole number by a unit fraction? Explain. So we showed a number line, we used equations, and then I also showed you using a visual model or a picture on this page. So I want you to say the strategy you like best is either picture, number line, or equation, and then tell me why. When you're done, you can go ahead and so pause the video and finish that out, and then when you're done, you can go ahead and turn the page to the next page, to page 484. All right, we're going to do numbers 9, 10, and 11 together, and then you'll do pages 485 and 486 on your own. So number 9 says this: Stacy has 4 sheets of paper to make cards. Each card requires a half a sheet of paper. How many cards can Stacy make? Draw a model and write a division equation to represent and solve the problem. So first of all, this question is talking about paper to make cards. We want to know how many cards can Stacy make, and we know that she has 4 sheets of paper, and each card requires a half of a sheet of paper. So this one, again, lends itself very well to drawing a picture because we can literally draw 4 sheets of paper. So we're going to go ahead and draw 1 sheet of paper, 2 sheets of paper, 3 sheets of paper, and then 4 sheets of paper. So we have 4 sheets of paper. Then what we need to do is we know that each card requires a half of a sheet of paper. So we need to break each of these sheets of paper in half because we need each of those sheets of paper is going to be able to make how many cards? That's right, 2. So in order to find out how many cards we can make, all we need to do is just go ahead and count how many sheets of paper we have. Or excuse me, how many halves we have. And so we know that Stacy can make 8 cards. Now, we're not done yet. We drew the model, but we didn't write a division equation to represent the problem. So we need to say, what is the first number what goes first? What are we dividing? That's right, we're dividing the 4 sheets of paper. And then we're going to divide them each into 1/2 sections. And we know that if we divide 4 sheets of paper into 1/2 sections, we're going to get 8. We'll have 8 1/2 sections. Now, if we're looking at problem 9 above, which multiplication expressions can be used to represent the situation? Or is a big question here, or check the division equation. So first we're going to look for a multiplication equation that represents this situation. So first of all, we know that we have 4 sheets of paper. So we know that one multiplication we can do is 4 sheets of paper times how many cards you can make out of 1 sheet of paper. We can make 2 cards out of 1 sheet of paper. So we can multiply the total number of paper by how many you can make in 1 sheet of paper. So 4 times 2 equals 8. So do we see that over here? Yes, that's right. We see that here on letter E. Now, that tells us a multiplication expression that we can use to represent the situation. Now we're going to look for a way that we can check the division equation. Now remember, I taught you on the last, I've taught this a couple of times now. Remember, this is our whole, this is a part, and this is a part. So when we're trying to multiply, we need the parts, but we need to know what the parts are. And when we multiply the parts by each other, we get the whole number. So we can also multiply this part, 8, times 1/2, and that should equal 4 to give us our final answer. And so if we multiply 8 times 1/2, we have an imaginary 1 underneath that 8. So 8 times 1 is 8. 1 times 2 is 2. And then if we simplify 8 halves, we know that that equals 4. So yes, this equation, 8 times 1/2, also works. So we're going to go ahead and also choose D. Great job. You guys are really sticking with this, and I think that you're really starting to understand what's going on with this dividing fractions. Now let's look at number 11. It says this: Dylan makes 3 submarine sandwiches. He cuts each sandwich into sixths to share. He stacks all of the sandwich pieces on a plate. How many sandwich pieces does Dylan stack on the plate? Show your work. So first of all, we're talking about sandwiches. And we want to know, how many sandwich pieces does Dylan stack on the plate? And we know that we have 3 sandwiches, and we don't see another number here, at least not written the way that we're used to seeing it. But if you look, there's a word in this problem that does tell us some more information. What is that word? All right, I hope you got it. The word is sixths. Remember that sixth is the same as saying 1/6. That is what a sixth is, 1/6. So we're going to go ahead and let's not draw a picture today. Actually, I changed my mind. We're going to draw a number line. I always love a good chance to draw a number line. So we're going to draw this number line, and we're going to make it look like a really long sandwich. Because I love, you know me, I love food. So this is our really long submarine sandwich. Now, he makes 3 sandwiches, so we're going to break this submarine sandwich into 3 parts. So we know that this is 3 sandwiches, but like, I don't know if you've ever been to Subway when they have these like big, giant, like 6-foot long sandwiches. Think about that. That's that kind of idea. But really, we're looking at 3 sandwiches that are put together. So this is one sandwich. This is another sandwich. And this is the final sandwich. Now, we're going to break those sandwiches into sixths. So that means that one sandwich is going to be broken into 6 equal parts. So we're going to break it into 6 equal parts. So that sandwich is broken into 6 parts. This sandwich is broken into 6 parts. And this sandwich is broken into 6 parts. And now to solve this problem, all we need to do is just count how many equal parts we have. So I'm going to do it a little bit differently, and I am going to count how many sandwiches there are in how many parts there are in one sandwich. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can see that I have 6 parts in one sandwich, and I'm going to multiply it by the number of sandwiches I have, which is 3, to get 18. So there are 18 1/6 sandwich pieces on the plate. And that takes us to the end of this session. You can go ahead and do pages 485 and 486 on your own. As always, if you have any questions, you can always contact your teacher. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.